That is the same government, the same military, the same occupation, burning people. Imagine citizens, civilians that are actually captured and they are already surrendered. Their homes are being burned down, and watch what happened to them next. In the case you can't watch it very well, I have those on my Facebook. Listen, so this is La République du Cameroon, military. And you expect some discipline within the military of a government of a nation. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Watch this and feel the pain. Watch. Those are civilians. They are already being captured. They are being placed and they have nowhere to be gone. They cannot resist. But look what happens to them next. It's going to be painful to watch. Watch. Those are them sleeping. They have already surrendered. They have already been captured. Of course, those are animals that one will expect for a nation. Who is more of a terrorist? Because United States government intervened in the Boko Haram because they describe them as a terrorist. So if Boko Haram is a terrorist, who is more of a terrorist? This person carrying on this particular act or the Boko Haram? It is imperative that we watch with our faithful eyes and see exactly the government, the United States government, intervene on their behalf. It is exactly Boko Haram. Because I don't expect the Boko Haram to carry on such an act. A government that has a military that is trained and they have some kind of reasonable, mental, and able to carry on justice. This is human being. This is not animals. And you expect a government of a nation, after capturing its citizens and eventually shut them to life, and it is painful. You all watch. Who is more of a terrorist? This act is absolutely a terrorist. Biya government is absolutely a terrorist regime. If you don't agree with me, then go up and watch the video because I have it posted on my Facebook. Because a military with reasonable judgment and able to function, because they undergo training, they learn skill, they are able to make judgment, they can make their rational and different from an ordinary animals. But in this is cannibalious. This is absolutely a government that should have been not even allowed to even exist. It should have been persecuted, but unfortunately, United Nations, the corrupted office in the current century, and its leadership called Antonio Guterres, assured this individual that his military is carrying this out, that his government, his office is not going to intervene. And that is the world we are living in. I can assure you that who is more of a terrorist? The Biya regime that is after capturing, after the people have surrendered, after the people have lain flat, after there is no signal that they are going to act, and they went ahead and shot them live. That is the most cruel system that the world must have called for immediate session and discuss about this crisis. But nothing is going to happen so long as Antonio Guterres is getting his wages passed, he's getting his bribery sent to his direct account. No investigation, no oversight community. But since Antonio Guterres is the oversized community, is the boss by himself. Nothing is going to happen. His bribery is poured in by those brutal dictatorships, and nothing is happening, and no one is questioning whether he has any credentials. And that is the world we are living in, fellow citizens of these great nations. Let's proceed. These are images of citizens that have been killed elsewhere in southern Cameroon, in Federal Republic of Ambazonian. These are in the forest that they've all been murdered, and they now, civilians are going picking all the dead bodies and now burying them on the same spot. Many families are not aware who is their relative has been killed. And that is why I would expect the United Nations to call for immediate session to discuss about this crisis. We all know what happened in Europe. When a simple incident happened in Europe or in Asia, but because Africa is yet to show signs that they are capable of doing themselves. But we all rely on the United Nations, that the United Nations can do something. But unfortunately, in this case, it's no. The United Nations is not going to do something. So long as the current Secretary General, his wages is going by, his bank account is flourishing, with all the bribery that is coming from this brutal dictatorship. Look at civilians that have been buried alive. No absolute oversight committee to investigate. When you ask the current Secretary General of the United Nations, their office spokesperson said there is no indication. They have asked the perpetrator to investigate itself and report to the United Nations. What a sad, it's horrific. It's terrible. It's terrible. United Nations is asking the perpetrator to investigate itself and report to the United Nations. He is not willing to call a session to discuss about the crisis, but is willing to ask the perpetrator to investigate itself and report back to the United Nations. And that is why I am calling on the United States government that for the goodwill gesture, for humanitarian crisis, it's better the United States stood by and act now, because the scene is going to a worse stage.
So much. Our viewers were very into that. That was really cool. Can you introduce?
all are aware that some of you agree that La Republique is currently having an election that is going to be held in October 7. And many people are jubilating. But the one sad thing you can deduce from the October 7 is that France already invite the winner of the president to arrive in November in France against a summit with the current French president, Emmanuel Macron. So if election hasn't been conducted and a foreign president is already inviting the winner of that election that has not been conducted, a French government is inviting a president that has not been elected in November through the French ambassador in La Republique. You can understand. You can understand. That is why I am saying that France, the architect of genocide in Africa, it is time that Africa needs to let France go. France must concentrate on his own country and allow the African descent to concentrate, and so they can build a lasting nation for themselves. Why in the world with a president inviting a president in November when they are not sure he is going to win the election because the election has not been conducted? That to indicate to you that the election was already rigged and the president was already nominated and the president was already handed off of office, and therefore France is inviting that president in November. And there are some stupid individuals, they are still standing there, they are ready to go for an election. What amazing world. What an